oh no, man, another location, man, it just sounds cool. And you say 2 locations and people are like, awesome. You say 3 locations and they're like, what? You're really doing something. And then you dial in the numbers, you start looking at stuff and you're like, yeah, I'm just losing money. That's all. That's the only thing I'm really doing.
I'd be better off with the 1 location.
I'm telling you, man. And if I were to go back, the Williamsburg was a drag, but I had a guy still on our team, him and his wife. They became our operators. I mean, they took it from $340,000 our first year to $1.9 million by year 3. And so then you have that factor of like, oh, we have something here. Let's start a 3rd location. And not all the stuff aligns. And if I was to go back, I would definitely have just kept it at those 2 and gained more market share. And so if that encourages anybody, like, get your pride out of the way, make more profit off of your locations, grow more market share. And really, that's where the win's at. It's not having a bunch of locations. You just don't realize how much you spread yourself in on doing all the stuff. And then, like what I did, you get into a new market and you don't realize that it's completely different. You're learning the business all over again.
Hey, welcome to the Painting Business Pro Show. Today, I've got Gabriel Goar joining me with Showstopper Painting. Amazing guy. He's doing a little over $6 million a year or so this year with 3 locations now. So he just opened his 3rd. In this episode, we dive into his background, his journey, how he got started, how he built his company, his experience opening multiple locations, if he would do it again or how he'd do it differently again. But the real meat of our conversation is around the whole point and purpose of building and owning a business. He's an incredible person, a human being with a huge heart who's done an amazing job really keeping his priorities straight as he's built his business. His message in a lot of this conversation is something that I think we can all be reminded of more. So I think you'll really love this conversation as much as I did. So enjoy. Hi guys, I got Gabriel Goar here today, and we ran into each other at the Painting Contractor Association Expo recently after years through YouTube. But it was great. We had an awesome conversation, so I'm excited to dive in. And I actually haven't done a lot of background with Gabriel, so this is going to be a fresh conversation for me too. So Gabriel, excited to have you, excited to dive into your story and your business, man. Thanks for coming on.
Eric, thank you so much, man. I've been watching you for years and years, and it was really cool. I made sure that when I saw that you were there, that I sought you out and had a conversation with you. And you've definitely been a mentor, even though we've never met. And so I enjoyed those conversations. They were really cool. And listening to hear you talk to all those other people there as they came up in our conversation, and it was just really neat. So I appreciate all that you do, man.
Yeah, no, it was great, man. I always like, it's always a funny experience getting together at the in-person things to see people that, like, for me, I'm just me, and then it's like, dude, I've been watching you forever. And so anyways, always great to connect face and get to know people. So yeah, it was great chatting with you there. All right, man. So let's just dive right into it. Can you just start out with, like, what's the state of your business today? Like, what do things look like at Showstopper? Is it Showstopper Painting? Yeah.
Yep.
Showstopper Painting today.
Yep. We are launching into our 3rd location. We started 19 years ago down in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And that's where I had originally founded it at. Then moved to our 2nd location in Williamsburg, Virginia. And it's about 45 to about an hour away, depending on traffic. And then from there, we're launching into the Richmond area.
Nice.
Which is about an hour from Williamsburg. So our central is Williamsburg, and about an hour in each direction for each one of those. Excuse me. And we did last year. We sold 4.6 million, produced 4.4. So our biggest year yet. We've had some really big pushes since COVID, and hired a consulting team that's been helping us dream bigger and push further. So it's been really neat. Got a fantastic team. We subcontract all of our work out, and then we have project managers, and very similar to probably identical to your system. I just didn't know it until I saw you at the at the PCA. I was like, wait a second, that's exactly it right there. So it's just been really neat. But yeah, it's been a ride. I love it. I've really enjoyed it. Never thought that that's what I was going to do with 19 years of my life, and just been enjoying every step of it.
You said you've grown a lot since COVID. So like, what's kind of really high level, like that journey look like from, when you started 19 years ago to, where you're at now?
Yeah, we've always had we've only had two plateau years in all the 19 years, and two of those were almost identical to the year before, never under. They were just a few thousand over, and then everything after that, we had a 5-year run where we had 40% growth year over year, and that was big because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to do it differently every single year and trying new things out. So a lot of trial and error. But when we get into COVID, you could have gone to the bathroom in a corner and made money during COVID, and those jumped. It jumped exponentially during those times, and then those were about $1.5 million year over year growth on those. And then
So what were you doing around like before COVID compared to now?
before COVID, it was like 2.1, I think, was our highest.
Okay. Nice. So more than doubled since
Yeah.
then. Exciting.
Yeah.
How's this year going? And by the way, for anyone listening recording, it's mid-May 2025.
Yeah.
So 24 was 4.5 million. How's this year going?
Well, our target was 7.6 this year with the launch of the third location. The third location, a lot of trial and error,
Yeah.
and so we are definitely behind the mark. Our sales are up 24.4% from the other two locations, but our third location is really dragging us down on overall target. We get into that market and we realize that the pricing is differently, the clients are different. Williamsburg and Virginia Beach mimic each other very closely, and Richmond does not. Plus, a lot of competition in Richmond. Our other two locations only have one big player, which is CertaPro, and then Richmond has like four big players. And so it's just been a different thing for me to figure out. And so it's been a slower start than I wanted. Still overall going good. Our other two locations will definitely hit their goals.
Yeah. I mean, 25% up at that level is really healthy. I mean, you're trending at those companies for almost 6. And, that's a pretty ambitious goal for a brand new location. I was going to ask you about that because I know. So you have successfully added one location, but it was pretty close. And then Richmond's quite a bit different. I just see people so often try to add locations prematurely, or they think it's going to be easier than it's going to be. And so what I find myself doing very often is talking people into like, dude, just keep getting better in the location you're in before adding more. Having gone through this a couple times, what's your view now on expansion in terms of like geographical expansion in new locations?
Oh, 100% agree with you. And my pride is the thing that made me go, oh no, man, another location, man, it just sounds cool. And you say 2 locations and people are like, awesome. You say 3 locations and they're like, what? You're really doing something. And then you dial in the numbers and you start looking at stuff and you're like, yeah, I'm just losing money. That's all. That's the only thing I'm really doing.
I'd be better off with the one location.
I'm telling you, man. And if I were to go back, the Williamsburg was a drag, but I had a guy still on our team, him and his wife. They became our operators, or what we call our general managers now, for that location, and they just tore it up. I mean, they took it from $340,000 our first year to $1.9 million by year 3, and they just dedicated everything to it. And so then you have that factor of like, oh, we have something here. Let's start a third location, and not all the stuff aligns. And if I was to go back, we'll continue to grind out Richmond, but if I was to go back, I would definitely have just kept it at those 2 and gained more market share. And so if that encourages anybody, like, get your pride out of the way, make more profit off of your locations, grow more market share. And really that's where the win's at. It's not having a bunch of locations. You just don't realize how much you spread yourself thin on doing all the stuff. And then, like what I did, you get into a new market and you don't realize that it's completely different than how you have to operate in your other markets. And you're learning the business all over again.
Yeah, and you underestimate the benefit of just being in a market for a while. Like, oh, you don't really realize like how much easier marketing is because people have kind of seen you for a while, and you don't realize how much referral business and repeat business and how more warmed up everybody is because I've been in the market for a while. Like, it's not quite like this copy paste thing, where you take the thing that's working and just copy it somewhere else and it just works the same. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
It's not,
No
it's not
doubt.
because I coach a bunch of people and I'm smart, man. I'll tell you, it's because I got my ass kicked doing it myself for years.
It really is. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's a straight up whooping. You're just like,
Yeah.
man, another thing, just blind spotted stuff. I mean, all the way down to yard signs. I mean, yard signs for us produce really hefty. We put out 100 yard signs. We don't even get a call in the new location. And I'm like, wait a second. I've got to rethink even the strategy for that. It's a completely different grind that you just don't expect.
How much of your time is that new location taking compared to your first two locations right now?
Oh man, of my time,
Yeah.
60%.
It's wild.
Easily 60%. That's probably a underscore on that. I mean, the other two locations are self running.
Yeah.
They're doing everything pretty much without me. And then you get into this one, it's just like, man, this is taking every little bit, all the way down to like I'm putting out door hangers. I'm like, dude, it takes everything from you, man. It's just not expected.
Yeah. So, tell me what the org structure looks like. You mentioned you've got like these GMs, that run your Williamsburg location. How do you have your company set up right now? You said you're hardly even involved in those first two locations. What's that all look like?
So we do a hub model, is how we designed it, through the fluctuation of going back and forth with subs and employees. We just landed on an all sub model and realized that we get the best. We get the best ratings, and we get the best profit if we have a project manager. And so each location has a general manager. The general manager has three different ways that they're paid: a salary, incentives on sales, and incentives on the gross or on the net profit of their location. So they get paid in three different ways. The project managers are all salary, and then they get incentivized in 4 or 5 different smaller little pieces that they get. And then the salespeople, we give them an 8% commission on their sales. Nice. And so that each, like my South Side or my Virginia Beach location has a general manager, 2 salespeople, and 2 project managers. And Williamsburg has a general manager, a project manager, and 1 salesman currently. And then everything, all of our calls and all of our back office stuff goes into what we call our hub, which is run by two ladies currently that man all the phone calls and do all that kind of stuff.
So essentially, if we were to just look at the whole thing, you've got 3 sales reps, 3 project managers, and 2 office managers.
Yeah,
dude, it's like, it's exactly what I was talking about at PCA. Yeah. Even when I crank the numbers, because you're going to do right about 6 million with a team of 5 and 5. Yep. So you're running the $3 million model with a team of 5 people in basically 2 places.
Yeah,
and you also have a GM who runs them, which is nice because you've got another layer of management, which in some ways, like, you could do all that, but you would be really busy with 10 direct reports. So sure. At your stage, it makes a lot of sense to have that layer of management.
Yeah. And I clipped out that piece that there's always something to learn, right? I clipped out that piece that you put in the PCA, and I immediately hung it on my whiteboard, and it's still up there. And I'm redissecting our numbers, going like, I can make this even better, more of like Eric's model versus what I've been doing. And I've just noticed that my overhead is like, okay, let me see how I can slim that down and even get some more profits out of what we're doing. Although we've got a really good model, I believe, and we're doing well, I think there's still more to be able to pull out, which is always, what you and I talked about on the bridge that day. You were like, you pull out more.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. All right, great. So very cool how you've got that all set up. So let's jump back, man. And here, I want to hear about your background and how you got started in this. So you said it was kind of accidental. Pretty great when you've got an accidental business that turns into a $6 million business with people running the show. Too bad you started another one that's keeping you so busy. That's not getting money.
I know, man. I do. I enjoy my story because this is how it went, man. I was 22 years old, and I was working at my church for 4 years, where I went to school, and everything was just church life, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it, and I loved being around the people. I loved helping people at church, and so everything was just that. But I always had a little entrepreneur streak in me ever since I was a little kid, and I asked the pastor about me working at the church and doing a lawn care business, and he was like, "You probably shouldn't," and I was like, "That's no problem. I get it." And then one day he came to me and was just like, "Hey, we need to take some time off." The church wasn't in the best financial position at the time, and he said, "Let's take a year off, and you go find something to do, and at the end of the year, we'll reevaluate and see if we can bring you back on." I said, "That's fantastic." I was super confident, and in that meeting, right after he just sprung that on me, he said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to start a company." And he said, "What kind of company?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll start a painting company." And he looked at me and was like, "When we have to paint around here, you don't even like to paint." And he said, "Why would you want to start a painting company?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to work for somebody for a year and then pour a bunch of time and resources into me. I feel like I could do painting for a year. Should be easy. I could probably make enough money." I mean, I was only making $189 every 2 weeks before taxes at the church, so I didn't have a bunch to make up. And so that's what I did. I went, but this was the days of 2006, so YouTube wasn't really a thing. And I went down to the library. I rented all the DVDs and books I could on how to paint. And I went to my little room at the church housing. I locked myself in there, and I did nothing but watch videos and read books on how to paint, like everything I could get my hands on at the library. Made notes. I came out of that little dungeon 5 days later, and I went down to the church, and I said, "Can I buy 500 pieces of paper from you and make flyers?" They said yes. So we had them cut in fours, and I just started walking around the neighborhood and passing out flyers. And a little lady named Lydia gave me my first job, $860. She gave me 50% deposit, and I did it in 4 days. And I remember thinking to myself, how much money did I just?
How much was the first job?
My first job was $860.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was making 100 or less than 200. I was making $189 every 2 weeks at the church. So you make that in 4 days. And I was like, what's going on here? So a couple of the guys at the church, older men who had businesses, they saw what I was doing, and they knew the position that I was in. One guy brought me to his warehouse where he sold paint supplies and a bunch of different stuff to military ships and bases and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Anything you want, man." And like gave me a airless sprayer, gave me roller handles. And I mean, he loaded the back of my truck with stuff. It was so cool. John Dykema, he's not with us anymore. He actually just passed, but just a great man. A guy named Russell Smith. He owned a heating and air conditioning company out here. Incredible man. He gave me $1,000 to help me with getting my first insurance. The church actually had an old truck. They let me have that. And so I sold my station wagon, and which, looking back on it, maybe as a painter, I should have had a station wagon, right? No. They gave me a truck. I sold my station wagon to finish off getting my insurance, gave me $700 for that. And I just started, man. We used to take pieces of paper and write, we'd have it printed up that said painting and then a phone number. And we put that on a piece of foam board, and we taped over it with packaging tape, because I didn't even have money to buy yard signs. So I handmade my own yard signs, and I would go out in the middle of the night, and we'd put them out at 3 a.m. and wait for the calls to come in, man. It was just it was a grind, but it was really a lot of fun in those days. And the Lord worked it out perfectly. People ask me all the time, what made you say painting? And I'm like, I really do honestly feel like the Lord was like, "Hey, this is what I want you to do right now." So
yeah,
what I've been doing.
The word just fell out of your mouth.
Just right. It really did, man. Just like that. It's pretty crazy.
Dude, that's wild. Man, people got it so easy these days. You don't have to go to a library and lock yourself in a room and watch DVD.
Dude, if I knew you could spend $100 on a Facebook ad, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just, the information, I was just talking to my wife about this the other day, especially with AI. Information is really easy. Application is always the hard thing. You can overload yourself with the information, but if you're not willing to apply it and grind it out, then you don't really get anywhere with information. It's easier to access. You can get there faster, but it still takes the application of it.
Why'd you bring that up?
I just really, I heard a guy say the other day that AI is going to change everything. And I
Yeah.
think he said these words. He said, information is going to be available for everybody in a touch of a button. But it dawned on me when I heard him say that information has already, it might be faster and we might be able to get more with AI, but information has always been there super fast, right? And every decade it gets even faster and faster. But what really is the changing factor is how fast somebody can apply that information to their life and actually get something out of it. I help this young guy who owns a pressure washing company, and I always tell him, I'm always like, dude, information is not your problem. You can quote this stuff. It's the fact that you're just not doing it.
Yeah.
You're refusing to do it. And so that's the real differentiator, in my opinion, is somebody who can apply it versus somebody who just knows about it.
Oh, I think it's a really good argument to make. As the argument is like, look at this, all this knowledge and stuff, and you're like, yeah, you can get it faster, but like you can already get it pretty damn fast and easy.
Exactly.
And as like in my position where I do coach loads of people, I can say for sure that yeah, it's the difference is not everyone has the information, but there's some people who grow like a rocket and some that go nowhere, and it's 100% how people apply that information that's available.
For
Yeah.
sure. I met a man one time. We were at church together, so about 3 years ago, and he said, man, I bought this online painting um, course, and he said, I want to sit down and talk with you about it. I'm thinking about starting a painting company. I said, great, man. We sat down, we talked about it. It ended up being your course. He didn't have any background in it, and every time I bring it up, I'm like, where are you at with that? And he's like, I haven't done anything with it. And so the whole point is like he's got the information to build an incredible business that you gave him, that he paid you for,
Yeah.
and he has not applied it, even a piece of it. And again, application, not information.
Dude, that's like the biggest change that we've made in the last 3 years, probably, because I've been doing it for 12 years, 13 years now. And the last 3 years, the big change we made is like I staffed up a big member success department that just like holds people accountable to
Yeah.
taking action. Like that's the biggest change because yeah, you've got, people like your buddy that we see, but then I also see other people who like have had insane results. The difference is the application. And like um that's the biggest like value we can add for people is making sure you actually do the work. But
Yeah.
anyways, so let's jump into is there anything else that you want to share about just like the background, how you got into it, how you grew from there? So I assume the rest of the story tells itself. You had a good year because you were making like 5 times as much money and things went well. And I can't believe you, by the way, I can't believe you were taping like cardboard the signs you
Oh,
were
dude,
making, dude.
it was a
That's
foam.
amazing.
It was a piece of foam board from the Dollar Tree and a piece of paper and then packaging tape. And I'd cut it in fours and I put a wooden stake on the back with two drywall screws. And I would just go out in the middle of the night and pass those out, man. I mean, we had absolutely no money to do anything. I'm trying to support a small family. And I
You
was
had a family at the time.
so when I first started it, I didn't.
Yeah.
In 6 months, well, about 9 months. Well, the whole backstory is I started it with this girlfriend, and she was crazy. And in order to get rid of her, I actually left the business for 6 months. And after it was 6 months old, so I left the rest of my first year of business.
Yeah.
And I went and did missions work with our little Baptist church. Started a church, and
Yeah.
I did missions work for 6 months in the Philippines, which I loved.
Wow.
And then when I came back, I got back together with my high school sweetheart. We got married 6 months later, and she said, "What do you want to do with this business?" And I was like, "I don't know. We've got it. We might as well try to grow it." And so it was her and I about a year and a half in, and we've been grinding it out together since. But yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
we put my little 1-year-old or 6-month-old daughter in the back seat, and signs were all around her, and we'd go in there, man, and she'd drive me around, and I'd jump out and hammer a sign in and jump back in the. We're doing this at 3 o'clock in the morning in the back of a little blue Jetta. I mean, it was crazy.
I love it, man. And how many kids do you have now?
We've got 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
What's been like your, I want to get into it around like lifestyle and family, and like you don't need to build a big business. Like the whole point of business is like you can create your life if you create your business. I want to talk about that for sure with you, but what's been your experience of that, like raising a family, having a business, and prioritizing, like just what's your experience of that been the last couple 20 years, whatever?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I love that. When I started the business, again, I thought I was going back to work at the church at the end of the year, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
We'd done our first year, we did 46,000. That was 2006. And
hey, Eric here. Pretty much every person that you've heard on this podcast or you listen to is someone that we work with at Painting Business Pro. We've coached some of them. We've even become business partners with. What we do at Painting Business Pro is help people who are starting or growing a painting company grow an amazing business with great profit while enjoying an amazing lifestyle along the way. And transparently, our goal is that for the right people, we actually end up making a minority acquisition to help you grow your business even further as a partner of ours in our company. If you're someone who's serious about growing your company, living a great life, and you want some help doing it, we love what we do. We're very good at it. We do it in our own businesses right now. Head over to paintingbusinesspro.com and hit apply now, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
And I was like, all right, that's fine. The church doesn't.
$46,000 was a lot more money in 2000.
Hey, and I made less than $200 every 2 weeks. So
right.
I actually thought I was the king of the world, and I was like, all right, that's fine. The church doesn't.
$46,000 was a lot more money in 2000.
Hey, and I made less than $200 every 2 weeks. So
right.
I actually thought I was the king of the world.
Right, you were loaded.
I had so much money. Yeah, eating steaks for dinner, and I really thought that I had it all. But again, it wasn't until year 2 of the business when my wife asked me, like, should we take this thing seriously, that I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But even seriously, to me, was to not build this massive business. I had a young family. I am and was very involved in ministry at my church, and I wanted to make sure. The Bible says, "Seek first the kingdom of God," and so I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything aligned with that. I also didn't desire to have a big business. I just wanted to make enough. I always said to myself that if I could make $150,000 a year, I would feel like I was a king. So the first handful of years in the business was not this serious grind out, make it happen, let's look for some big stuff. It wasn't until 2010, so 4 years in, where I really started to look. That's when I believe that's when I first originally found you, and started seeing some stuff that you were doing, and guys like Dan Kennedy and stuff like that. And even still, it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I started to set my goals much, much bigger. I just think that people, especially young people, they want to get to the finish line so fast that they neglect. And as I studied business guys, especially guys who had grown large businesses, I noticed that the vast majority, not every case, but the absolute vast majority of them neglected their families to build something big. And I absolutely refused that. I was like, I want to make sure that I don't neglect my community, my church, the people that I love, and especially my family. I will show up to everything that my children have. And building the business was way down the list from what actually mattered in my life. And as I talk to other young guys and people working these businesses, I always tell them, like, you can build an incredible business after your kids are grown, or when they're grown enough where they can help you too. Like, I think you can find balance in both ways for sure, but it's so easy, especially for a man, to get off balance because we value what other people look at and go, oh man, like, look at how big your business is built. And then your kids are like, yeah, but he never shows up to my games. He never does anything with this. When's the last time we got to take a vacation together? When's the last time I got undivided attention on the fishing pond without him having to send out an email? And it's things like that it kind of breaks my heart. I never wanted my kids. I didn't grow up with a dad, and I never wanted my kids to ever even have the experience of maybe the dad's there, but he's not present. And I want to make sure that I was present in their lives. And so that's what I built the whole thing around. And I think that that matters. And I think we're seeing that a lot more with our newer generations. Like, they're finding that balance of it. But it's an everyday challenge for most business owners to go, what really matters here. Is it more profit on the bottom line, or is it more time with my family?
How did you do it? So, because this probably matters more to me than anything too. You don't need to build a big business. That's like my whole thing is you
Yeah.
can build it with constraints. I did, and I'm the same way. Like I have certain things I'm just unwilling to compromise or sacrifice on, no matter what. And I don't miss them. I don't miss things with my kids.
Mm.
Every single morning, every single evening, every single weekend, lots of one-on-one time. Like a lot of times I'll have to dip out a whole day of work unexpectedly because like, oh, we just found out we're building a house right now. And
Oh
my
yeah.
3-year-old boy, Brady, he like, man, the trucks, the diggers, the cement trucks, the like literally in the last 2 weeks they were pouring a wall. And so there's the day they were pouring the footers and the day they were pouring the wall. And I found out from my builder like that morning, it was like a Thursday, a Monday. It was this week. It was Monday and then Wednesday. He texted me at like 7 a.m. He's like, we're pouring at 11. I'm like, on Monday. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm canceling all my meetings today because
Yeah.
we're gonna go watch that cement truck pour the cement, and he like loves it, man. So it's like,
Dude.
anyways, close to
Bro,
my heart.
that Eric, but that's what life is about,
I
man.
don't know,
No, nobody gets to the end of their life and wishes that they had less time with their kids. Like
right?
nobody's sitting there like, I wish I had less time with you. What do they all say? I wish I had more time with you. And it just comes down to being intentional. And for me, it's not even just the kids. It's everything in life, right? It's like I date my wife every single week at the same time. She knows when we're going on a date. We do something special. I plan it. I take her out for a week every single year, and I make sure that it's just her and I. We don't bring the kids along. I pay for somebody to watch the kids for a week. It's just us, and it's just us enjoying each other. And so in my life, I would rather make a whole lot less money and be able to have those things that are actually fulfilling, than make more and just have a bunch of people think like, oh, look what he's built and look what he's done. Although that's where the pride wants it to go, it's like, man, that it's really not what matters. And so intentionally building a business around that is really life giving, and can do so much more for you than look at how much money I'm making. Look at how
Dude,
much time I put in.
such a crazy thing because I think I've asked thousands of people, why'd you start a business? Just in my line of work, like I talked to lots of people who just started or about to start. Like, why did you or why do you want to start a business? And it's always the same answer. Always. If I say you can only use one word, it's always some version of freedom.
Yeah.
But then the second question is like, well, what would you do with that freedom? And it's, oh, family, community, get back to my church, get back to my community. I travel, I did, on and on. That's a huge wide range of answers. What would you do with it? But point is that like before you start a business, like that is the goal, but then you attain that goal, and then like all of a sudden what starts to become more important is like growing it. Oh, now this is good, but let me just get to there now. Okay, this is good. Now let me just get to there. Now I'll just sacrifice this a little bit. I'm almost there. And it's like, man, you can be almost there for like a decade or 2 decades and wake up and have missed the important things. And it's just tough to avoid that trap for a business owner, I think, who's building a company.
Oh, for sure. And it becomes, and I really think that it comes down to the accolades of people. Nobody ever has ever sat, I can't remember the last time somebody, a stranger especially, was like, dang, you're a good dad. Wow, you're a great husband. But what are you tell them about the business? And they're like, what? What'd you build? And so all of a sudden your brain, if you're not
Yeah.
looking at this kind of stuff, your brain starts to value that over the real things that are valuable to you. And so it's got to constantly be this regular checkup of yourself. The Bible says, examine yourselves, right? Like you should constantly be looking at like, what did I do for my wife this week? What did I do for my kids this week? Did I show up the way that I wanted to show up, right? And if you're constantly examining yourself, you are putting yourself back into the lineup of where you want to be, and not where society just constantly is giving you like a dopamine hit of like, oh man, I must be doing something good, so let me run after that. And then you realize that you get 10 years in, you're like, wait, what did I do here? Because you're right. Everybody says freedom, right? Everybody says some
Yeah.
sort of, I want some more time with my family. And then they get into it and it doesn't happen because we don't put ourselves in check as often as we should, in my opinion.
So you mentioned one really important piece here, which is like it requires intentionality. It requires the examining yourself. It requires like constantly checking back, like, hey, are my priorities straight? Um, so that's for sure one big piece of it. Now the other part of it is I think there's a lot of people who would listen to that and say, yeah, but like I don't know how because my business is dominating me. It's 50 hours a week or 60 hours a week. Like I don't know how to do it. I do want that. I don't know how. So I think there's that piece a little bit too. And before we got on, you shared a couple things. So I'll just pick off one at a time. You talked about alignment with the right people early on, because obviously you couldn't have done all of that if you just literally weren't making your bills and didn't. So yeah, what were some of the things that helped you build your business in a way that you were able to prioritize all this other stuff that is important to you?
It's a great question, man. I mean, my first greatest hire was a guy named Daniel Jeter, still with me today. Daniel worked for Sherwin-Williams for 14 years, and just an incredible guy. When I started the company, I didn't know anything about painting. I didn't even know that there was different size of roller naps. Like I didn't know anything. And so I would go into Sherwin-Williams and I would sit on their pallets of caulk and I would just listen to contractors come in and I would listen to them talk.
Mm.
And Daniel, who was the assistant manager at the time, would talk to them about this product or that product. And then when the room cleared out, I would just sit there for hours and talk to Daniel. What should I be using here? What kind of brush should I be using? And just get all of this information from him. And then 10 years into the business, I heard that he had left Sherwin-Williams, and I immediately called him up and was like, "Dude, I need you." And I didn't even know how much he was making at the time. I couldn't have afforded him. I knew that, but I knew that I needed to take a chance. And so, aligning yourself with people like that you know are greater than you at certain areas was really the key to where we started to grow. I hired him and as a project manager and a salesman all in the same year, and I went from making money back down to making nothing. It was like, okay, I didn't have it formulated correctly. I wasn't thinking about margins. It was nothing except for, I need these two positions to work myself out of those positions. And it was a grind and it was hard, but it ended up paying off for itself with that, because Daniel brought in a level of leadership that he was trained with Sherwin-Williams that
Yeah.
I didn't possess to have a team. And he brought in a lot of industry knowledge also that really helped us out. And so you do as you're building a business, you do have to learn to be able to step aside, not know that you are, or be able to know that there are people out there that can do a whole lot better of a job than you do. I wouldn't recommend not knowing your margins before you did that, like I did. But most of us entrepreneurs, we jump out of a plane and we build a parachute on the way down. We didn't build it while we were in the plane. And I lived up to that for sure. But really just surrounding yourself with those types of people that can get you to the next level. And now you can find so much of that information online now.
Yeah.
Like so many coaches and even reels. You can find so much, just a vast amount of information. But people is the great multiplier for sure.
How did you balance the demands of the business? Because you mentioned like that was at like year 10, and so I want to get into that too. But in some of those earlier years, how did you balance like the demands of a business and making money with, all right, but I'm still prioritizing this? Like, what's the actual? How did you not sacrifice along the way? Is there anything else you'd add besides the intention and examining yourself and everything we talked about earlier?
I think it was just simply the fact that I wasn't looking at how much money I was making. I think that if you put the benchmark of like, I have to make this much, then all your effort goes into the sale and all the stuff to hit that so that you can draw that out of the company. And I wasn't focused on that. For me, from the beginning, it was the constant checkup of my time. Did I neglect anything that I had going on at
Yep.
church this week? Did I neglect any of my stuff with my family? I did. I mean, you do have to sacrifice. So I did sacrifice time with friends. They understood like I'm grinding this out. I didn't have a ton of time with friends. but you can still prioritize. I wish I was better at my calendar because I probably would have had time for my friends back then if I was just better at my calendar constraints. We actually have a whole lot more time in our schedule than we even give ourselves credit to. But we just, most small business owners that I've seen, just run it off of like, what's the immediate fire right now,
Yeah.
and not what can I do strategically. They're not focused on strategic movement. They're focused on fire, 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 fire. They get to the end of the day, they're tired. They won't do anything else, so they sit in front of the TV for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that if somebody's just intentional with that, and if they're not necessarily focused all on the bottom line will happen if you focus on the strategically the right things first. And for me, it was just the family time. Again, I would rather, at the time, I would have rather made $50,000 a year and done everything with my kids, and then strategically figured out how to make more versus make $100,000 and have no time with my kids.
Totally. Well, if 50 is not enough and you need 100, then when you get to 100, that's not going to be enough. And like, that's the whole trap, is like, there's always the next thing. And then once you make even more, then you're like, man, but now I need to make sure I make enough to keep this whole lifestyle going. And it's a long road and such a trap you can get into.
What a huge trap it is, because your desire grows, and then you have more things, and then you have to have money to maintain those more things. So now you start to make excuses of like, I have to do this. And like, the real thing is to just like, you don't need a boat and 2 jet skis and 3 cars, right? Like, I'm not against those things, but you don't need those things, and to maintain those things is very hard. It talks about that in the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which I love. It's a great book on that kind of stuff, and it really is true, man. And we are so quick to sacrifice for the things that people see and not the things that matter in eternity.
Dude, it's interesting because when you mentioned the boats and the jet skis and like all that, it's like there's a cost to them, but the bigger cost is not the price tag. It's what was the time and the effort and the energy, and like, what were you not fulfilling in life to make the money to pay for the things? Like, the bigger cost for me would be, man, chasing all that. Like, I'm not going to chase that thing I want. I'm going to make sure I don't pay for it with my time with my kids. Like, I'm not going to pay for it with that, I'm going to share something just for anybody who's listening, because I think this whole conversation is probably why we kind of hit it off. We didn't even talk about this stuff, but talking about it's like clearly something you're really close to your heart and really important to you. Same with me. So Daniel Zuli, I did a podcast with him not too long ago. He started his painting company when he was in college, and he was also a full-time athlete. So, he's pretty busy. And then his painting company was like an hour away. And so he had to run his business in a very limited amount of time, because if you miss football practice, you're off the team. Like, if you don't keep your grades up, you're off the team. And there's just like little pockets. And so it kind of forced him. There's just certain things that he could not do. Like, he could not drive out there to fix a job site. Yeah. He could never be the one to go out and paint, like, because of the constraints. And so I think, one of the best things that someone can do is you said this, is like, you start with, that's a constraint. I'm not going to sacrifice that, period. Like, I have to find another way, and sacrificing the things that matter isn't one of them. And one thing you were like, okay to sacrifice, like, I'm going to sacrifice a little time, social time. I'm not going to sacrifice the kids though. I'm not going to,
for sure. Yeah. You have to find that stuff in the schedule. You have to be able to look at it. You're not going to have time for everything, and valuing your time. Anybody who's doing anything in business is looking back going, I have to value my time above anything else. I love hearing Mark Cuban says that all the time on like Shark Tank. It's like, you really have to understand where your time is going and how valuable your time is, and move strategically into positions where you are valuing your own time, so that you can actually do the things in life that you want. You did not start this business so that you can have a boat and 2 jet skis. You started this business so that you can have time to do things with in whatever way you wanted to do them, and trying to keep up with everybody and all that other stuff makes it really, really challenging, man. And if I could just encourage anybody with that, I literally just sold my boat like 2 weeks ago, because it came down to a time. My wife and I were looking at it, we're like, we got some big plans this year. We're not going to have time to hit the boat anyways. Let's just sell that thing and get rid of it. I was like, let's go. And so we sold it. And so the whole point is just the fact that, and that's why I love Elon Musk. Like the dude doesn't even own a house, right? Because he understands like all of that stuff, just it ties you down in one way or another. I'm not saying don't own a home. I'm just saying be very specific and strategic on the things that you do own so that you can really have the life that you want. And if a humongous home is the life that you want, go for it. But, if it's time with family and the things that you really fulfill you, go for those.
It's being intentional, man. It's just about being intentional and being thoughtful about it. Because if you're not, you're going to get sucked into, what everybody does in society. It's like, I want more, 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 never enough. The status game, the looking good game, the let's make even more money, let's retire game. And like, you're chasing this future and sacrificing now, and the future is not even guaranteed. And I'm not trying, I'm grateful for every day.
Every day. Every day. The Bible says to be content with everything that you have, right? Like, it's not saying that you can't get more, but it's finding the contentment, the satisfaction in the things that you already have. I mean, we were born in America, man. Like, we already won the lottery, and people can complain all they want, but you literally, I've been to the Philippines. One of my 10-year goal is to build an orphanage in the Philippines. And I want to do something huge like that. So we've got huge goals. But when I go to the Philippines and I see how these little babies live in that were abandoned by their parents or their parents died, you can't help but look at it and be like, dude, everything that I have, doesn't matter what you make, everything that you have is a blessing. So count your blessings and be content with what you have, and then strategically plan out your life around that.
Dude, it's funny. It's funny that as you said all that stuff, like, you don't need the boat and the jet skis. You're like, so about my boat.
Right, exactly.
Look, the distinction is you didn't sacrifice and then you got the boat, but it was funny that it came back. Like,
it's like, don't get the boat
of mine and my 2 jet skis.
Hey, with all of that into account, though, I bought that boat for $5,000 and I sold it for $10,000 5 years later. So
my man,
turn it into a little something there. But no, it's so true. Well, I fall into the exact same thing. Well, some of the biggest mistakes that I've made in business is every single time my income has grown, I started to live up to that income.
Yeah.
Right. And that dude, what a humongous trap. I mean, I sold a house in Chesapeake, which is by Virginia Beach, loved that house, to move up to Williamsburg. The house was double the price up here. And I'm like, what am I doing? Now I got to take more out of the business, slow the business down more, just so that I could have a house up here that I don't even like as much as I like my one down there. But, you fall into that trap, and it's super easy to fall into that trap. And that's why I want to encourage people like, dude, I'm living it. And my wife just said to me the other day, let's sell our house and let's downsize. And I'm like, I'm really, really considering that, because it doesn't bring me any fulfillment. Having a bigger house doesn't bring me anything more. I'm not against it, but it doesn't do anything more for me. I would rather be a giver and continue to fund orphanages and the things that we do, and give more in that regards than have a bigger house to clean.
Well, see, with the bigger house, then you just hired the cleaner to do all the cleaning, and then you got
yeah, my wife has a cleaner, and then she cleans before the cleaner gets there. I don't even understand that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And so where I was going to actually ask you about this. So, but you brought it up, around the Philippines and the orphanage. That's something that we talked about briefly when we were in Colorado Springs. So what's next? So you've got your 2 locations going well. You've got this other location you're working on figuring out. And you've probably got this business a lot further than not long ago you ever dreamed of. Oh, yeah. You're like, man, never even thought I'd be, which I think is always crazy. That's like my whole theme, discover what's possible. Yeah. Dude, you have no idea. I mean, you didn't, when you started this thing, you had no idea you could make $800 in 4 days. And now you're over here, with companies running themselves doing millions a year. Super cool. What are your intentions for what's next with the business, with your lifestyle? with giving back?
Yeah, so a great question. Thank you. A couple years ago, we found Cardone Ventures
Yep.
and really started to kind of go down the trail with them. And I met Brandon Dawson, and he's become a mentor of mine. And he just really teaches you how to dream bigger. And I really love that because he said these words one time directly to me. He said, "If you're not dreaming big, you're robbing the world of what you were created for." And for my whole life, ever since I started doing missions work in the Philippines, I wanted to do something with orphanages for them, but I never even told my wife. I never put it on paper. It was just something that was like, hey, if I come across a butt ton of money, maybe I would do this. And he's helped me push towards the actual goal setting of that, of like, what would it look like? How much money do I need to make? How much money is it going to take? How many kids do I want in there? How many people to take care of them? And all sorts of stuff like that. And so that's helped me to dream bigger, to be able to not make, I honestly could care less about making more money. It's not a huge factor to me. I want to do something huge like that for the orphanages. And so, yeah, our goal is to have an orphanage with 300 children, 50 people to take care of them, and where we house, feed, clothe, shelter, and educate them. But I don't know if it's going to be one big building or if it's going to be multiple little ones. But that's our 10-year goal, and that's what we're pushing for. I tell my team all the time that our vision statement is not so that we can just say, hey, look how big we are. Our vision statement is so that we can look and say, this is what we do with the money that we make at Showstopper Painting. So we're excited about that.
Dude, what difference did you, and maybe it was no difference, but I suspect there was a difference that I made when you started to create that vision with your team? Did you see it impact like the culture or impact how people showed up? Like, what difference did it make once you articulated an inspiring vision like that for your company with your team?
It's drastically different, man. I never even had a vision statement, a mission statement, or core values until I got with Brandon Dawson. Like, I didn't have any
Yeah.
of that stuff. And that was just a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now. July, I think, will be 2 years. I didn't have any of that. And it wasn't until we started to roll that out and describe that to the team, those things, where they caught on and they saw it and they're like, okay, this isn't about making Gabriel a bunch of money. This is about us, the employee, reaching their own personal, professional, and financial goals. And it's about what the company wants to achieve with the money that we create and how we want to change the world. I tell my team all the time, it's not about how much money we make. It's about how much impact we make. And I want to make a huge impact in young people's lives. I've been doing student ministry in my church for about 12 years. I've been teaching the young men at my church and our students' youth department. And I just want to continue to impact people's lives so that they can go out and continue to impact people's lives. And I want to do it all across the world. I know how impactful having a dad and a mom influence can be in somebody's life. Like I said earlier, I didn't have a dad, and so I want to inspire them to do stuff like that, because there's so much awesomeness that's wrapped up in people. They just got to release it. And so once we started to push that out to the team, we did see the team just start to come on board. They hold themselves accountable. And we know where we're pushing. We're pushing towards a mark together that I wouldn't say that we had all the years previous.
It's awesome, man. You know, a
And
couple things. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. The Bible, it's so crazy because every time I learn from all of these guys in business and they say all of this stuff, and every single time they say something that's astounding to me. Every time, Eric, I think of a Bible verse. Every single time. You know, when you got somebody that's like, however you think is how you're going to act. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? When it talks about dreaming big, all of this kind of stuff is all wrapped up back into a Bible verse. And so when you ask me that question about what did like casting that vision to the team do for them, the Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And if there's not a vision for people to strive for something, it falls by the wayside. You get unengaged employees who don't really care about anything except for what they want to achieve, versus engaged employees who see the big vision and how their personal, professional, financial goals fit into that vision, and how they can succeed in your organization. And it just drives everything completely different.
Well, when you started to share about how you've created that vision, I know the power of that, because I talk about that at our leadership events. And like fundamentally, that's the beginning of leadership is there's a future worth fulfilling that wasn't going to just fulfill itself. Like it wasn't going to happen anyway. And there's no need for leadership if you aren't fulfilling that kind of future. It's not even required. There's not even a possibility of leadership to happen without a future that was not going to happen on its own. Because if it was going to happen on its own, there's no need for leadership.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, anyways, a couple of things I want to underline for anyone listening, though. One thing I've noticed is it's not just creating a vision and an inspiring vision as a strategy. See, like what I pick up from you, man, is you've got a huge heart. You really care about people and you're real. Like you're not doing this as a strategy to make more money. And that's where I think a lot of the vision, mission, like that kind of stuff is ineffective, is if it's a strategy to make more money, a strategy to motivate people. If it's like strategic, it doesn't work. Like it's got to be real, man. And I hear that through like your whole story, with what your purpose for getting into it and how you engage with different people, and just you've got such a huge heart and you're such a real dude, and it's not a facade and it's not a strategy and it's not BS, and that's why it works. Because you're not doing it for you selfishly. And so, just want to underline that for people so that you don't miss that part. It's not like that's your special sauce, man. Like you're a special dude, and everything, it's not just the things you're doing, it's the way you're doing them, where you're coming from. And so anyways, just acknowledge you for that. I
appreciate
real,
that, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot. And it really is, that is my heart, man. I love people. I love investing in people, give my time to people, and people are fantastic, man. I just love hearing their stories and talking with them. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anything else you want to share?
Let's see. I would like to take a little step back and just kind of inspire some maybe some young people who are just like, I don't even know where to start and how this whole thing happens. And
we'll just go to the library, rent some DVDs.
Hey,
or, sit on crates at the paint store and talk to the guys all day, man. Not bad advice, dude.
Yeah, hey, man, it's still, all that knowledge is still there, man. You can still get it. You get it faster on the internet now, ChatGPT, if you want to, but. I think that everybody can do it. I've said this for years. And, do I think that everybody has it in them to build a massive business? I'm not sure. I don't know yet. Does everybody have it in them to build a business? I think so. I think that everybody can build a business that is perfect for them and really give them the freedom that they want out of the life that is around them. And it doesn't take a ton except for some hard work. I tell my students all the time, like, if you were to go off to college and spend 4 years in college and then 4 years in your first career, you'll be 8 years in and you'll be just like everybody else. But if you go off and you start a business out of high school and you run that for 4 years, and then let's say that doesn't work out and you go and you go to college, you're going to end that 8 years way more valuable to an employer, in my opinion, than if you just sat in school for the first 4 years, because you'll be running payroll, you'll be have done marketing. There's so many other things and skill sets that you can learn, and maybe entrepreneurship's not for everybody, but for those of you who really want to get into something like that, you just got to take the step. You just got to go ahead and do it. Allow yourself some time. Give yourself some grace. You're not going to do it incredible right out the gate. There are going to be some things that you mess up on. I've heard your stuff, Eric, about recently about you put out some stuff about how many businesses you had to close one year, and just all sorts of different little things that you had experienced in the trial and error too. Everybody just needs to give themselves grace, but you can do it. And it really does give you the freedom and the life that you want when you're intentional about it. You just gotta run with it and go. It's an enjoyable ride too. It's super fun.
Yeah. I love all the things you said today, man. Appreciate you, dude. Amazing. Thank you.
Hey man, thank you for doing what you do. It really, the very first video I watched of you was talking about color consultations, how you go out and you put color on people's walls. And I was like, yo, this guy out here doing these color consultations. And we've been doing those ever since. Like, we hired designers now that go out and do that kind of stuff. But the point is like when I found your stuff, I would just eat it up and like, okay, he's doing something. But one of my biggest downfalls, and I did want to touch on this, my biggest downfall is the fact that I isolated myself. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, that I still haven't figured out yet, is why I just decided like, I'm just going to grind this out and do it myself. I don't need to have a coach or need to have somebody to show me and teach me. And I could have done it a lot faster and probably a lot easier if I would have listened. And it's only been in the last couple of years where I've put my pride aside and just been like, look, man, I think it just came down to the fact that I kept saying like, I want to be self-made. I started this not knowing anything. I'm just going to do it not knowing anything. And all I did was hurt myself. I wish I would have listened to more of the information you were putting out and some of these other guys and really applied that, because I would have exponentially been able to grow a lot faster and without so many speed bumps and hiccups in the road. But I really appreciate what you do, man, what you do for our industry. Yeah. It's been awesome. I'm appreciative of you. I'm glad we met.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Yeah. All right, cool. Appreciate you. We'll end it there.
Awesome.
All right,
thanks, Eric.
Peace.
All right. Yeah. Bye.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the show, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a quick review for the podcast and what you gotten out of it. It helps our show reach more people and inspire more people. Thank you so much.